Hello, Tiffany. So good to have you here today.
Thank you, Heather. It's wonderful to be a guest on your podcast.
Well, I'm excited to have Tiffany Loeffler here because she is the executive director of the Alliance. And it's been fun to watch her in action because I'm actually a board member with Tiffany, and I've been on the board for a couple of years now. And we meet quarterly. And let me just say, every time I show up at my quarterly event, I'm like, how much did you get done? So she's a mover and a shaker. She's been so fun to work with and serve on the board. And I'm really excited about my role on the board, but also just supporting such a wonderful, capable leader. And that's why I wanted to bring you on our show today, Tiffany. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. Tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Well, as you mentioned, I am the founder and executive director of the Alliance. I'm an adoptive mom. So I've been married to my best friend for the last 16 years. We just celebrated our anniversary recently. And my two kids are adopted from Haiti. We did an international adoption that took almost 7 years to complete, but they came home in 2017. And so now I have a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old at home. So we kind of jumped into like the older spectrum of kids. But I grew up in an awesome, loving family, always knowing that I was cared for and that I could accomplish anything in life. My parents did a great job of championing me. And so I really was heartbroken when I found out that other kids didn't have that. And so I've led missions teams globally. I've led church-based ministry locally, but really 6.5, 7 years ago, felt like there needed to be more of a cohesive movement around at-risk youth, foster youth, families in crisis. And so that's what the Alliance does. We actually gather together all the agencies, nonprofits, and community service groups in the greater Sacramento area where we're located that are working with this population, helping them work together, and then inviting the community to all do something to help the kids and families here in our region. So
love that. What I love about your nonprofit model is there's no competition.
Right.
And there's a bringing together and a building of bridges and even the sharing of resources. So that's what made me excited about being on this board and going after these at-risk communities and the people who support these at-risk communities. That to me was just a really exciting proposition, and to see it happen in our own backyard, it's been really fun to be a part of. I want to ask you this because we're going to pivot over a little bit to leadership and what it looks like for you leading. And, you know, my tagline, 3C, living and leading, clarity, confidence, and courage. Tell me a little bit about how that has supported your direction in leadership.
Absolutely. Well, as I was processing through those three things and reading your book was, it just felt like an outline for life. It was an outline for how to do relationships, how to do work, how to do community service, because it just brings everything together. And so I really appreciated the amount of understanding of how we show up. I feel like our lives are really chaotic. I mean, if we all think about it, our inboxes are full. We're getting so many text messages. We're bombarded by the chaos of our communities. And so scaling things back, almost like the 2 steps back so that you can see what's really important. I feel like those three things really identify, we all need clarity of who we are as people. What are we doing in our workplace? What are we doing in our community? How do we want to be showing up for our family in clarity? And then the courage and confidence is really stepping into those spaces where we have clarity. And so I think it plays itself out in so many different ways for me, both at work and at home, but it allows me to show up as the best version of myself, whether I'm in a staff meeting leading my team or whether I'm showing up at home at the end of the day and giving my very best to my family and not just the leftovers. So
I love it. Well, you are a mover and a shaker. That's how I got to introduce you. And I am as well. And sometimes we could be dangerous together. But, you know, I opened the book with clarity. The very first chapter is restorative rest. And it's really a permission slip you sign at the end of the chapter to say, I give myself permission to rest, because it's so critical for clarity. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about how rest has increased your clarity and what you do to rest?
Absolutely. I really try to set aside really healthy work and home boundaries.
Mm,
I'm still growing in that area. I feel like there's always more we could do because, again, there's always more coming at us. But
mm-hmm,
as a leader, there is no ending of opportunities, right?
mm-hmm,
There's no ending of things that we could be doing to invest in our team or invest in our organizations or to build up a business. If
mm-hmm,
you are in the business sector, there's just constant opportunities out there. And so I do believe that resting first so that we give our bodies and our minds time to slow down enough to
mm-hmm,
process and prioritize. I didn't mention this, but I'm also in healthcare. I've been a physical therapist for 16 years. And so that's the industry I came out of
mm-hmm,
before stepping into the nonprofit space. And in healthcare, we use the word triage often. If you're
mm-hmm,
going into the ER or if you're going and being seen by your doctor, they're going to triage your symptoms. They're going to triage what you're presenting with because they need to know what's the most urgent and important, and they're
mm-hmm,
going to address that first.
mm-hmm,
And I feel like if we could look at rest as like number one on the triage list,
mm-hmm,
if
mm-hmm,
we could say, hey, if we can slow down and say, what does my week look like? What does my month
mm-hmm,
look like? Some of the ways that we do that practically here at our nonprofit is that we have a good chunk of time each week set aside for a staff meeting, and
mm-hmm,
people are sharing what they're working on and have the opportunity to ask questions. So if
mm-hmm,
they're needing clarity, I have 7 people on my team and we have a wealth of resources and knowledge and
mm-hmm,
experience, but the person carrying out a certain task or program might not have all of it themselves. And so
mm-hmm,
having that time set aside for
mm-hmm,
those check-ins is
mm-hmm,
really vital for our team. We also get away for a staff retreat once a year. And that is a 2-day time where the first day is
mm-hmm,
just connecting with each other as a team. We don't
mm-hmm,
talk work at all. We don't talk calendars for the next year or budgets. We actually just say, let's play some games together. Let's share what's on our hearts together. Let's talk about our
mm-hmm,
families, the things that are our values and the things that are important to us. And then let's have fun. And so we
mm-hmm.
share good food and we have a great time. The next day we come back and say, okay, now that we're feeling more connected as a team, what are we going to do to tackle the challenges in our community to meet the needs of more kids and families in the year to come?
I love that. I
I
love that.
also, one
Mhm.
more thing,
Go
I
ahead.
have all of my staff members get a paid personal day. And
Mm-hmm.
I let them know right off the bat, it's in their employee handbook that that's an annual thing. You get a paid day once a year to step away from work, but get fully paid. And it's not to go on a vacation. It's not to, pick your
Mm,
kids up from school. It's actually to do whatever your soul needs to be filled up. So
mm,
it's your job to assess, is that going on a hike? Is that sitting at a coffee shop and reading? Is that journaling? What is that for you? And that's what you spend your day doing. And by the end of the year,
mm.
you have to have taken that day and tell me about it. So
I love that. How many days do they get, did you say?
they just get one.
One, but still, you're just
But yeah,
holding that accountability and that value there. So, do you do it as well?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
I've
And
already
what do
got
you do?
I try to do a conglomerate of things. I'm a big
Uh-huh.
reader, so
Yeah.
reading is always part of my agenda. I try and read like 2 or 3 books at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading something that's teaching me something, and then I read something that's a fantastic story, and then I
Mm,
usually read something that's inspirational.
mm-hmm.
So I'll sit at a Starbucks and I will read. Um, I enjoy bargain hunting. So I usually go out
Mm,
and do a little bit of bargain hunting. I do it around my birthday each year. So I take my birthday money and I get to do a little bit of retail therapy.
oh,
And then I
love
try and
that.
get out in nature because that's
Oh,
just fueling for my soul.
oh, I hear you. I hear you on all of those accounts. So that sounds like my perfect day as well. It
Awesome.
sounds like my perfect week, actually.
Yes, yes, that would be great. Yeah, for larger corporations, we're a small nonprofit, so we can afford one day of personal
Yes.
day. For those larger companies, sure, it could be a
Yes.
week.
I hear
Soul
you.
Care Week. We all could
Yes.
use that.
Soul Care Week is right, man. Well, I want to pivot over to your clarity of mission. I think that's something I've really loved watching you work. And I thought it was always fascinating. I mean, I tried to get into you as a PT and you were booked. So I knew you were successful. It wasn't like you weren't successful in the field. And so then you went and started a nonprofit. It made me ask the question as another businesswoman saying, what made you want to leave that field? I mean, what was that clarity of mission that you had to not only leave that field, open a nonprofit, but even more significantly, adopt 2 Haitian children as your own? man, talk about being all in, Tiffany. Tell us a little bit of how that journey went and how you got your clarity around that.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like the clarity that I have is usually surrounded around problems, right? I feel like when we try to solve problems, we're bringing our best to the table. So the two main problems that I kept seeing over and over again when I was helping local and global at-risk youth were there's a lot of really great organizations here in our region that are doing amazing things, from foster agencies to mentoring organizations to groups that are serving homeless families to single parents. It's this great continuum of at-risk youth and families in crisis. So I could kind of see from the 35,000-foot view, this was all a huge continuum. And there's probably more than 200 nonprofits and agencies right here in our region that are doing great things. The challenge was those organizations either had no idea what each other were doing, or there was actually some direct competition in the nonprofit sector. We kind of expect that businesses will compete for your market share. They're going to be advertising, they're going to be trying to get people, customers to come in their doors. But the nonprofit sector can actually be very competitive too, because every nonprofit usually needs two things. They need volunteers and they need donors. They need the people and the funds to make their mission work. And so I was seeing a lot of disjointed efforts that I felt like all fit together in like the 1,000-piece puzzle. And if we just put the puzzle pieces together, shared ideas, shared resources, recognize that we were actually all on the same team and not in competition with each other, we could see all the gaps in the system met. We could have a better picture of what resources were available, and we could serve even more kids and families. So that was some of the clarity. The other challenge I saw is that people in the community didn't know how to engage. Not everybody is called to adopt two kids from Haiti. Most people aren't. Not everybody is called to be a foster parent. Most people aren't. Those are absolutely needed things. So, but that takes a big ask and an available home and lots of other support systems in place. So one of the other things that in clarity that I love is just getting to enlighten people on what the needs are and what are some easy, tangible ways they can meet needs. Because it's honestly, we can assume people don't care, but it's really that people just don't know. They don't know what the need is, or they don't know how they fit into the equation. So the Alliance does a lot of that. We do community mobilization all year long, saying, hey, there's a need for mentors in our community. Do you have 1 hour a week to mentor a youth or a teen? Or, hey, there's a huge need for respite, parents to get a night off. Could you offer babysitting, or could you put on a cohesive respite event? And so there's just a lot of times people just need to be invited in and feel like they have their place. And that's the beauty of clarity. That's the gift that it gives to people who are sitting on the bench or sitting out in the community and didn't know they were even needed.
I have an actual example of that. It's so funny you had mentioned that, because as you're talking, I was like, that's exactly what happened with my small group. Where every year in our neighborhood, we have a small group that we all get together. We have a blast. I've got wonderful neighbors. And the leader of the small group said, I don't want to bring Christmas gifts anymore. We all have enough gifts. Me being a board member, seeing an opportune moment, I stepped in and said, hey, I'm a part of this whole nonprofit that is really supporting our at-risk youth and our foster care and our caregivers, and just they had no concept of it. But once I exposed them to it, they got so excited about it, made donations, bought gifts, and they brought that to the Christmas party versus a gift for each other. And the whole thing shifted. And so when the invitations went out, that great little flyer you gave me, the card of all the options, I said, well, here, stick that in the invitation. And people were excited about this idea of there's something that's out there. But to your point, the clarity around how to get involved, options around how to get involved, and giving people the respect of saying, I want to get involved, but this is what excites me, and this isn't what excites me, I thought was really a great way to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been really fun. So that Christmas giving campaign that you mentioned that your small group's getting involved in, we got to blast that out to the entire community. And so that Be a Difference Maker went out through 20 local churches. It went out through tons of different cohorts of like people. It went out through businesses. We have collection sites at restaurants and at real estate agencies. And there's tons of different toy drives. Like there's so many ways people can get involved. All of the items from that are coming into our office. And so because it was a collective effort, and because there was clarity around what the need was and what the ask was, we're right now, and we're still bringing things in, but we're going to be distributing 2,000 toys to kids and families, over $5,000 in grocery gift cards for families who have food insecurity, and over 40 families are going to receive baskets that are completely filled with all these beautiful gifts, from holiday baking things to Christmas morning gifts. Those are going to go to so many different families. And so it's just beautiful to see the ability for people to say yes when they know what they're saying yes to.
Oh, well said. Yeah. Yes, when they know what they're saying yes to. Oh, that's great. So you have clarity of your own mission, and you're giving clarity to other people to join you in your mission. I love that.
Yep.
I want to ask you a little bit about confidence and courage, because as I know, starting something takes a tremendous amount of confidence and a tremendous amount of courage. You have those up days, those down days, and everything in between. It's a bit of a roller coaster because you're pioneering and blazing new trails.
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about that and how you handled some of those hard days and some of the insecurity and some of the confidence practices you did to make sure that you stayed on point and actually started a really successful nonprofit.
Yeah, those two go so hand in hand for me, the confidence and the courage, because I feel like I am well qualified to be a physical therapist. That was my educational background. In undergraduate, I hold a doctorate degree. I had been in the field at the time I launched the Alliance for over 10 years, so over a decade. I was well qualified to be in healthcare. As I was building more clarity around both the problem and some of the potential solutions to help at-risk kids and families, I felt like I wanted to attach myself to either an existing organization or help mobilize more people to go and do this other task. It kept coming back around to no, I needed to start it. I needed to lead it. But that was definitely a confidence shaker. I like to be qualified and prepared. I like to have all the answers. I'm a type A firstborn. And so it was like, oh, okay, I need to assess this from no one else is in this space. There's not a handbook on how to launch an alliance because there wasn't one locally that served this vulnerable youth population. Some of it was learning from others. So there are a couple other regional alliances nationally. And so getting on the phone or, emailing with other people who are in this sector who I could learn from. The vision I had was slightly different than each one of those. And so it did take courage to push past but nobody's done it this way, to still go ahead and start it. I also really had to push past not feeling qualified for all of the different things that you need to do to start a nonprofit, and to really ask for help. So I had a fantastic friend who's an attorney who set up all of our 501c3 nonprofit paperwork. And then I had other friends who were in finance who could make sure our books were set up correctly. So it was asking and inviting people in, using the strengths that they carry, and then also feeling like they had purpose in building what I was building. So as we started the Alliance, even though I'm the founder, I was having vision casting meetings for about a year with local leaders. And the meetings ranged from one-on-one coffee meetings to like 50 people in a room. And we were using whiteboards to say, what would it look like to see a collaborative movement launch in our region? What would you need? Who could get involved? How would it be funded? How do we reduce competition, even in the area of fundraising, and increase collaboration? And so it's really kind of tapping the people that might care about the things that you care about, and then leveraging their abilities and their acumen to really kind of launch into whatever is next.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What did you do on your days when your confidence was shaken?
Those are tough days.
Yeah, they are.
They are days. I do have an inbox folder that says encouragement, and I have another inbox folder that's success stories. So I can open those. So when people send me an email back that says, hey, I love what you're doing
Mm,
and thank you for stepping in. I save that in a folder because I need to go
mm,
back at those moments when we are meeting needs or when we're
mm,
launching a new trauma-informed education course
mhm,
or when we are doing a holiday campaign. I want to save
mhm,
data on that because I'm both feelings and thinker.
mhm.
I'm a combo deal. And
Yeah,
so I want statistics. I want to know that we're making an impact. And I
yeah.
also want to know that what we do matters.
Mhm,
And honestly, none of us get enough of that.
mhm,
Like in the business sector to the nonprofit sector,
mhm,
people, you're not always having them come back and say thank you
mhm,
or what an amazing service you provide or what an
mhm,
amazing organization you lead. So
mhm,
when you do get those, and they again are few and far between, saving them up as a staff, we also do at our Christmas party and on your birthday, everybody, it's like the opposite of a roast. They write all
mm.
the things that they appreciate about you. And you can actually, like, I have a little jar of all the great things my staff thinks about me. Because we
Oh,
all did that for each other. And so it's in the jar. So you can also pull a little piece of paper out of a jar if you're having a tough day.
oh, I love that. Oh, I think everyone should have that in the workplace.
Yes.
Um, Confidence has to do with beliefs. What are some false beliefs you've had to reject, and what are some true beliefs you're having to invite in?
Yeah, well, like I said, I grew up in a family who was really, my parents were great at saying you can do whatever you put your heart
Mhm,
to. And so I had some of the foundation of being
mhm,
able to operate in that field of courage and confidence. I think the areas that the false beliefs I would have to say is I have to do everything.
mm,
That's a big one, especially when you're the founder of something because you wear
mhm,
so many different hats.
mhm,
I had to say, okay, I'm not the expert, but maybe I still have to get the job done.
mhm,
Or this is important for our organization, but I'm going to wait for the right person to come along to carry the torch on that
mhm,
because I want it done well. We're an organization that wants to operate in excellence in everything that we do. And
mhm,
so if I don't have somebody on my team or if I don't carry a strength myself,
mm,
that thing that we might need to do might sit on a shelf for a little bit
mhm,
until the right person steps into that role. So
mm,
I've been learning delegation skills. I've been learning
mm.
when to say no. No, our no is powerful
Yes.
because the things that we say no to give us room to say yes to the right things.
Mhm.
So that has been like at first I can tell you like when you're starting a nonprofit and somebody invites you to come speak or come share, you say yes to everything.
Right.
I've like
Yeah.
nights and weekends and I was like where's my time gone.
Yeah.
And then you recognize that some of those turned out to be wonderful and very helpful events or helpful groups to speak to. Others you're like there was not a whole lot of fruit in that. I think I just gave up a whole evening away from my family and it wasn't the best use of my time.
Yeah.
And so living in that space of being okay saying no or being okay and saying not yet
Mhm.
has been really helpful.
I love that. Either saying no or not yet. I think that's a really good distinction to make. I had a friend who used to say to me, Heather, no is a complete sentence. And I thought, my people pleasing side wants to say, well, maybe, or it's a
Yes.
semi no, or saying yes, but you can feel down your gut. You're supposed to say no.
Oh, yeah, and all of us have those things.
Yeah.
And there are things that we still have to do. Like there's things for our kids or our
Yeah.
spouses or the things that we have to say yes to, even though it's like, oh, I know that's going to drain my energy a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, when it comes to work, like living in that sweet spot and doing the things that you are gifted at,
Yeah.
um, or setting aside time and dedicating time on your schedule where you have a lot of tenacity and
Yeah.
you just get done all the things that you know you have to do, but it just doesn't bring you a whole lot of joy.
Yes. Yes. I hear you. As you talked about the healthcare field and moving into nonprofit, you're nonprofit full time now, right?
I still treat patients 1 day a week, so it's
Okay.
just a very limited schedule. But yeah, my physical therapy part of me is just I love it so much, and it really allows me to help others. I love getting to help people, whether it's here at the Alliance or whether it's in my clinic.
Oh, What have you learned about yourself as you've moved away from your career that you trained for? You have a doctorate in that and very successful in that field. It sounds like there was just a pull on your heart, a tug on your heart to take on really a very uncomfortable project. You had it all going. It was great.
Yep.
It sounds like there was something that was really pulling on you, and I'm noticing just the satisfaction and fulfillment. But talk to us a little bit about that journey and how you knew that you needed to step away from that and move into something completely new and different.
Yeah. I really believe every kid should grow up in a safe, loving family. I think
Mm,
that's been foundational in how I was brought up and foundational in how I want my life to be lived out.
mm,
I feel like we all get to leave a legacy. Um, Personally, I have a faith journey that says like, hey, I've been adopted, and
mm,
I want to give that to others. But I also feel like there's just something beautiful about the relationships. Families are a place where we're supposed to be ourselves.
mm,
That's where we learn vulnerability. That's where we
mhm,
learn how to take risks. That's where our identity is developed.
mm,
There's a lot of hard parts of our culture today that aren't addressed because people aren't in long-standing relationships.
mm,
We haven't learned the value or we haven't retained the value of longevity
mhm,
in our culture today because, hey, we're upgrading our cell phone every year. We're getting a new computer every 2 years. We're getting our
mhm,
lease on our cars expires every three. Like we're used to things changing and being disposable, but people aren't. And
mm,
so I feel like when I'm investing in people and relationships and
mm,
stability, that when that happens, when that gift is given to a child of
mhm,
their family unit staying together, or when a child comes into the foster care system and they need a safe place to land,
mhm,
or when kids are going through their parents experiencing divorce and they just need some sense of calm or they need a mentor, a
mhm,
positive role model in their life that they can process some of their feelings with as
mhm,
they bounce back from dad's house to mom's house.
mhm,
Those are things that invest in this next generation that's going to change our community. It's going to change the way we view
mm,
commitments. It's going to change just really kind of the fabric of life for other people. And
mhm,
so I've always wanted, whether it's my career or how I spend my time outside of work, I've always wanted that to be helping others. And so, in some respects, it's just a continuum of that. I was helping
mhm,
people rehab from surgeries and car accidents and
mm,
injuries. And now I'm
mhm,
helping people restore and repair broken relationships or understand how trauma has impacted their brains or their behavior.
mhm,
Um, it looks very different in playing it out. It looks very different to go to work at my physical therapy clinic than it does to come to work here at the Alliance. But at the same thing, I feel like the foundation of getting to help others, to make our community better, and to bring healing has been
mhm.
continuous throughout my career.
I love that. It got me thinking of a personal example. My husband and I are in empty nests, as we talked about, and we were very invested in our kids for 20 plus years. And then all of a sudden, poof, and
Yeah,
it happened in August of this year. And Darren and I decided, hey, we're going on 30 years of marriage. Let's go back and get some counseling. Our pact with each other was always to get counseling every 5 to 6 years just because we wanted a good marriage. And sometimes we're like, oh, I only need a couple sessions to give each other a high five and move on. But we're in this place of we want more clarity of where we're going. And so we
yeah,
moved back into counseling. One of the things that's hitting us the most and where we're getting a lot of clarity is the impact of attachment. And my counselor's words are ringing through my head of everything is always about attachment.
yes,
She said that statement to us just recently. And Darren and I keep repeating that. We're like, everything is about attachment. Like, what does that mean? And we're getting
yes.
more and more clarity around this, but it makes me think of our sweet foster kids and adopted kids. And what are we doing? And what are we doing to really address what happens with that attachment being broken? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I can. That attachment is so foundational. And for all of you listening, I want to define that.
Mm-hmm,
Ultimately, as we're born into the world, we're looking to our primary caregiver to meet all of our needs. And so
mm,
attachment is primarily built between the ages of 0 and 2. Babies have needs and then they cry. And then the attachment is actually built when a loving caregiver comes and figures out, are you hungry? Do you need a diaper change? Are you sleepy? Do you just want me to pick you up? And as that attachment of meeting of needs, voicing a need, having it met, that's building trust. And the currency of attachment is trust. We then grow up, and if we're around safe, loving teachers and mentors and sports coaches and friends, we continue to be a very trusting person. We continue to operate in the best version of ourselves. In the attachment studies, there's the securely attached person. That's the person, or you can earn secure. If you had insecure attachment, and there's several different forms of insecure attachment, but if you had that growing up, you can earn secure later by going through counseling, by learning to trust, by learning to voice your needs. So often when needs go unmet, and this is in little kids, toddlers, teenagers, and all of us as adults, even in marriage or in work relationships, if we're voicing needs and our needs go unmet long enough, we either get angry or we stop talking altogether. We stop voicing our needs. But then mistrust forms. If we have that, we're not going to be great on a team at work. We're going to predict that people are not going to meet our needs. We're not even going to necessarily say what they are, or we're going to get frustrated and have very low expectations. We're going to operate out of this scarcity mindset that nobody's there to help me. I'm not going to get my needs met. I better just do it myself. And I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder in that environment, whether it's home or work as adults. And so a lot of times, trauma work or counseling or marriage and family therapy is all about learning how to trust again, to voice your needs, whether it's on your team at work, whether it's in your marriage or in your relationship with friends. We can say, hey, this is how I'm experiencing you, or this is how I'm experiencing this situation. Here's what I need. It's also learning what's our half, right? In all relationships, we do what we're responsible for. We're not responsible. It's not taking responsibility of how people respond to us. So just because you didn't have a loving caregiver doesn't mean you weren't worth love and attention and their yes. It didn't mean that. It just meant that they weren't capable of meeting your needs. And so a lot of things boil down to attachment, and we live in a culture of mistrust and broken attachment.
Gosh, I love how you unpack that. Thank you, Tiffany. And I think that's where we can grow our clarity as we look at where our attachment levels are. And I know there's anxious attachment, ambiguous attachment, secure attachment, avoidant attachment. Yeah. I'm learning a lot about all this. It's fascinating to me. Yes, good. I am. And I love it. And I've too worked with at-risk kids, and I saw that. I like that you talked about the currency of attachment is trust, because that's what I saw was their lack of trust. And I realized you have to earn it. And that part of that comes from being a safe attachment or a safe adult that says, when you ask for something, I will listen to you. I will see you. I will value you, and I will hear you, which is what grows the trust, which grows the attachment.
And translating that onto teams is also the ability to give and receive feedback.
Right.
We have conversations about that on my team regularly. I like feedback. I want my whole team to know, as a leader, I want your feedback. The feedback as an organization, also your feedback for me. Like I give them full permission to come and tell me, hey, here's how I'm experiencing you as a leader, or in this situation, or, good, bad. Hey, I'd like to have a growth mindset. And so I actually really appreciate all forms of feedback. And so especially when people can give it to you in a constructive way with clarity, then that's really, really helpful for us as leaders.
Oh, that's great. I think every leader deserves to lead with clarity. So what would you say to any of our listeners out there who might be struggling with getting their clarity?
I would say my two top tips are to do what you said at the beginning. We have to step away from the grind. We have to step away from our inbox. We have to step away from our staff meetings and our agendas long enough to gain clarity and to triage our environment. And for each one of us, it looks different because we're managing different amounts of work. We're working on different projects. We have different strengths on our teams. We're working in different industries. When that happens, where we don't have clarity, when we recognize, hey, I'm struggling because I can't put into words what I'm supposed to be doing or what I want to convey to my team. Casting vision as a leader is a huge skill set that we sometimes come naturally to the table with. Sometimes we don't, but it's needed. In every leadership position, you have to be able to cast vision for the people on your team. Some people who are fast processors can do that in an instant. Others who need time really need that step away. Let me take a day. Let me take an afternoon, blocking off your calendar, silencing your notifications on your phone, not opening your inbox at all for that day or that afternoon, so that you aren't your mental pull is not already on 10 tasks that you haven't done, but it's on looking at the bigger picture. We talk about this in collaboration often with the Alliance because we work with over 60 local organizations, and we want them to know what their piece of the puzzle is, and we want them to actually see the bigger picture. But each one of them carries a fantastic mission, vision, and set of values and things that they're doing in the community. I need them to stay 95% focused on their mission, their programs, their resources. I only want to ask for 5% of their time and energy to stop and look around and see the bigger picture, to attend an event so they could collaborate with other organizational leaders, to hop on a Zoom meeting where we're doing a think tank, to attend a training, a leadership training, where they become better leaders. I can't walk in and assume I can ask for a whole bunch of their time, because that would actually take them away from their mission. I just want every now and again for them to look around and see what else is happening in our region and how they play, how their organization or their mission plays into that. But we can do that as people too. All of a sudden, what's most urgent and what's most important for us isn't the same as what's most urgent and important for the rest of our team. So stepping back, casting vision, and then understanding where that falls in the scheme of how your organization operates.
The big picture. I love that. I think it can be counterintuitive. I'm going to just say this out loud for all of us, all my fingers pointing back, but all my listeners who are really high achievers and high activists. Sometimes when we're not sure on our clarity, our temptation is to stay in the game, grind harder, work harder, do more, stay on the hamster wheel. It feels counterintuitive. And again, I'm pointing all my fingers back at me. It feels counterintuitive sometimes to say, I am struggling with clarity of what's next, or prioritizing the tyranny of the urgent, so to speak. I'm going to step back, take a walk. In my book, I talk about daily pulling away, weekly pulling away, monthly pulling away, and annual pulling away. But I do think it's a system for how we step back. And daily having that pull back, weekly having some time, whether it's a half a day or full day, and then monthly having a weekend or an overnight or something to get your clarity. And then annual having a full week to pull back and take care of you.
Yeah.
I guess I want to ask you about the daily. And as we wrap up here, I don't even ask you if. I'm just going to make the assumption, because what I've learned in working with leaders is every leader has some way of how they wake up and start their day, what I'm calling morning rituals. Yeah. So I'm not even going to ask you if you do it. I'm assuming you do it.
I do.
And I want to ask you about it. What do you do? And share with our listeners. How do you start your day? What's some of your morning rituals?
I'm thankful that I'm a morning person and no one else in my family is. So it does leave me with a quiet house for the first hour of the day.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it is my quiet time. Yeah. There's definitely time to read. There's time to pray. There's time to reflect on the day ahead. There's time to prepare my heart and my mind for everything that I'm going to do. I'm with my pets because I'm also a pet person. So my quiet time also involves like the dog and the cat on top of me. And so there's like that physical snuggle time, which is like so life-giving. But if I don't have that time to sit and slow down, like to slowly enter my day, to slowly process through what's in my heart, what's in my mind, what's on my agenda, I will miss something. I will miss opportunities, or I will miss people because I'm really pushing towards a project deadline or a task. And so having that special quiet time in the morning with a quiet house, Right now it's really just nice because it's darker still. So it's almost like there's this progression of into the day, because by the end of it, the sun's come up. And so I'm ready to start my day. But my morning routine is definitely sitting in my favorite spot in the living room with my books and the pets and a cup of coffee.
That's very similar to my morning as well. I hear you. And I've got dogs who look forward to my morning time probably more than I do.
Mom's up.
I love it. Well, as we sign off here, what encouragement can you give some of our listeners? One of the things that I've realized in the work that I do is I meet people a lot at the crossroads. That's what coaching does, is people are looking at different opportunities in their life. It may not be as dramatic as leaving healthcare like you did and moving into it and starting a whole new nonprofit. It could be more of like starting a hobby or choosing a different relationship or anything else along those lines. But I want to say, what encouragement would you give them to really get that clarity about what they want to do, the confidence around their beliefs around it, and really the courage to take action steps forward in it? What encouragement would you give them?
We have a phrase here at the Alliance of being a difference maker. And I feel like if we wake up on a daily basis knowing that we have the opportunity and the invitation to make a difference for other people, whether they're in your family, on your workforce team, or in the community, when we're empowered with that phrase, I'm a difference maker. I'm gonna make a difference for people today. I'm gonna show up for people today. I feel like that invitation to us as leaders, to us as maybe bosses or staff members, to us as family members, then we're going to show up as our best form of ourselves. I love that there's this interplay of purpose. Like, we're all looking to have purpose in life, and we get to blend that with what we do at work and what we do at home and who we are in the community. And when we do that, we're definitely making a difference for other people.
I love it. It reminds me of another personal example that I will put on the table because I think our listeners will love this. Need to Breathe is one of my favorite music groups, and they have a song called Difference Maker. And one year for Christmas, my kids were trying to figure out what to get me. And I said, I would like each of you to gift me a song and tell me why you like this song for me. And my daughter gave me the song Difference Maker by Need to Breathe. And
that is a good song.
Yeah. And I love the fact, I'll never forget, it's one of my favorite gifts. I'll never forget that's how she sees me. Oh my goodness. I could die in peace now.
Right.
That my daughter has seen me as a difference maker. And I want to say, I don't think it's as hard as you think it is. It's really listening to your gut. I think that's the encouragement I want to say is it's listening to your gut. It's listening to your instinct. It's listening to your higher power. It's listening to something beyond yourself that says, I think I'm made for more. And I think that's the encouragement I want to leave with our listeners is we believe, Tiffany and I both believe for you and with you, that you get to go after the life that you're truly made for. And you get to have all the clarity and the confidence you need and the courage in abundance and in spades. Because if you don't show up for your life, there will be a hole in this world that will be less of a world. And we need you showing up for your life. And so we are cheering you on. And Tiffany, it's such a pleasure to have you on my show today. And honestly, it's a pleasure to be partnering with you as you're a difference maker out there in the world.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And this has just been such a great and inspiring conversation. I'm encouraged.
Good. Thanks, Tiffany. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We'd love a review. Helps us out quite a bit. Wherever you are, just drop a review. And you can find out more at heatherpenny.com. Cheering you on.